I used to think my father was a simple man, too simple for the world I wanted to live in. He worked in a small stone yard on the edge of the city. Every morning before sunrise, he would leave the house with dust already on his shoes, as if the day had started before he even stepped outside. People respected him, but not in the way they respected rich men. They respected him the way you respect something old and reliable, but easily replaceable. I didn't want that kind of life. When I was young, he used to bring small stones home from work. He'd place them on the table and say, "Every stone has a value, you just have to find the right place for it." Back then, I thought he was just talking about rocks. Years passed. I studied hard, moved to the city, and got a job in a big office. Glass walls, air conditioning. People who wore expensive watches and spoke about numbers that felt unreal. When I visited home, everything looked smaller than I remembered. The house, the street, even my father. One evening I said something I still remember clearly. "Dad, you worked your whole life in that dusty yard. What did it really give you?" He didn't look angry, he didn't defend himself. He just stood up, walked to a drawer, and brought back a small, rough stone. "Tomorrow," he said, placing it in my hand, "take this to the market. If someone asks the price, don't say a word, just hold up 2 fingers." I almost laughed. But the next morning I did what he said. At the market, I stood near a fruit stall holding the stone in my hand. People walked past me without noticing. After a while, an old woman stopped and looked at the stone. "How much for this?" she asked. I remembered my father's instructions. I said nothing and raised 2 fingers. She smiled. $2. "I'll take it." I was surprised. To me, it was just a dirty rock from my father's workplace. I ran home and told him everything. He nodded calmly. "Now take it to the museum," he said, "and do the same thing." The museum felt like another world. Polished floors, soft lights, quiet voices. After a few minutes, a well-dressed man noticed the stone. He picked it up carefully, like it was something fragile. "How much?" he asked. I raised 2 fingers again. His eyes widened. $200, I'll buy it right now." My heart started beating faster. I rushed back home. "Dad," I said, almost out of breath, "a man in the museum offered $200 for it." He smiled slightly. "Good, now take it to the stone market." The stone market was loud, dusty, and full of men who looked like they'd spent their lives lifting heavy things. One old man behind a counter saw the stone in my hand and froze. He stepped closer, his eyes wide. "Where did you get this?" he whispered. I stayed silent and raised 2 fingers. He almost shouted, $20,000. "I'll pay $20,000 for that stone." My hands started to shake. $20,000 for the same stone that someone else offered $2 for. I ran home one last time. "Dad," I said, "that man offered $20,000. How is that possible?" My father looked at me, not at the stone. "Because he knows its value," he said softly. Then he placed the stone back in my hand. "Son, the world will price you the same way. Some people will see you as $2, some as 200, and a few will know you're worth 20,000 or more." I stayed quiet. Then he added something I didn't expect. "But there is one more truth," he said. "The people who value you the least are often the ones you try the hardest to impress." His words felt heavier than the stone in my hand. For the first time, I thought about the way I spoke to him, the way I saw his work, the way I measured his life as if it was only worth $2. I looked around the small house, the cracked walls, the old table, the worn-out shoes near the door, and suddenly I saw them differently. Those walls were built with his overtime hours. That table was bought with skipped meals. Those shoes were worn so I could wear better ones. My father had spent his whole life in a place where people valued him like a cheap stone. And I, his own son, had done the same. That evening I sat beside him quietly. The stone was still in my hand. It didn't feel like a rock anymore. It felt like a lesson I had almost ignored. And I realized something simple, but painful. Sometimes, the real value of a person is only understood when we finally see them in the right place.